grew up having lupus. I was 12 years old when I was diagnosed with lupus. So it's always been a part of me prefacing, like with people who are my friends, like they do know and they've known for a very long time that I do have a condition where I will need to cancel sometimes. I will need to take some time for myself every once in a while. I think there's a weird juxtaposition because when I was younger, I did not really care about my health as much. And so I would prioritize socializing. And so I graduated college in 2019, right before the pandemic happened. So I went from having a very robust social life to having just the people that were around me. And luckily, I did live with three of my best friends, including my now husband, and two of my best friends that were a part of my wedding that I just had a few months ago. And so we were able to stay home and make a really great time during COVID. And I'm so thankful for that. But the transition after that was very hard for me because I had gone from always being a part of a community, whether it be dance or volleyball or the Filipino club that I was a part of when I was in college. I had always been surrounded by so much socialization. So moving then, in 2020 on to now in 2024, I've struggled actually to find a community that I wanted to be a part of and felt like I was a part of. And I've been striving for that for for maybe about a year and a half and kind of picking my brain to see what else I can be a part of. And I've been a part of AiArthritis for about a year and a half, and that has really brought me a lot more socialization, a lot more understanding, or feeling like people understand me and my condition, and also being able to be a voice of being able to help others that have our diseases too. I feel very grateful every day that I do have, a milder form of lupus where I'm not debilitated. I don't feel like it affects my everyday life. But I know that it's taken a lot of work and a lot of help to get to that point. So I still make sure that I keep the time for myself. I probably only go out and go hang out with people once or twice a month. We really, stay in the house a lot. But I'm also lucky that my best friend is my husband. So we socialize with each other all day, every day, and have so many things to talk about. Also, during my wedding, I was able to revive my friend group of our middle school friends. So I have a little group chat that's been going on ever since January. We check in with each other every day and keep each other accountable for the different goals that we have right now. So I feel like that's been very helpful for me. And just in the past 2 months, I've been very active on TikTok. Some of you who may have seen previous episodes, but I recently got vertical sleeve gastrectomy surgery in June of last year. And I did not know until recently that the weight loss surgery community on TikTok is huge. So I have been jumping into TikTok lives with a lot of different people who have gone through this surgery and talking about all the different lifestyle changes that we've had to make. But I've additionally, on TikTok, you can have a little screen name that kind of explains what your page is about. So mine says Lay, VSG, and Lupus. And so whenever I go live on TikTok, I've been able to find 3 other people that have also had the same surgery as me and have also had lupus. And so I've been able to find such a very niche category of people on that app, but it made me feel seen, and it even more so made them feel seen because I was the one going live, talking about my experience, answering questions and things like that. So that has also really made a big deal in my social life so far. So I've been striving to find a community, and I feel like I'm kind of getting there. I eventually do want to get back into dance and things like that. But for now, in the interim, I feel like this has been a really good option for me to get the socialization and meet new people. And I think one thing that we should also hit on is how hard it is to put yourself out there in order to find these relationships sometimes. I post on social media, Kerry posts on social media, and so does Estela. But even just to find the right audience and get the right people to see your posts sometimes can be hard. So how have you all like put yourself out there to make those connections online and kind of further that relationship? Because I think that might be something that our community would really like to know. I mean, I'm a naturally extroverted person where I do like to put myself out there, but there may be people out there that aren't necessarily like that. So what kind of advice can we give to those people who are looking for social connection but don't really know where to start?
I mean, I can start. One of the things, and kudos to you, Leila, because I have been following you on TikTok, and I think it's amazing that you're putting yourself out there and sharing your experience, because the one thing that we're talking about here, right, is about connecting with others that may feel alone, or even for yourself if you're feeling alone, right? We seek that connection. And I think, putting yourself out there, it's that vulnerability that we have, right? And I think that's what you could see that through you. So you're being vulnerable, but you're also being you're empowering yourself and you're empowering others to let them know that it's okay to not be okay and to be vulnerable and to talk about these things that not everyone talks about, right? Not everyone talks about their chronic conditions. Not everyone talks about personal life experiences with like surgeries or procedures because, it could be taken a whole different level, at a whole different level. It could be a positive thing, and it could also turn into a very negative thing very quick, right? And you have all these judgments. So for me, I think the one thing that I would recommend for everyone is to have that balance, right? To be able to feel, seen and heard, and to be able to share and connect with others, but also, prepare yourself when you're exposing a lot of things that you may not want to get any negative criticism or feedback from, and limit yourself and what the responses that you give back to those negative comments, right? Because that could be also hurtful. So you don't want to overwhelm yourself. So I think balance is a good thing. And then also learning about, recharging and taking time off of these social networks or just social connections. Leila, you mentioned like you have taken time off. Like sometimes you're very active and then you take a month off, or we have to look at those things, what is best for you, right? I'm very extrovert too. I could talk to everyone and anyone, but I don't share everything on social media. I don't. There are things that I do keep private, but anything that has to do with me helping others or sharing an experience about something that I know can help someone else, I put myself out there. But when it's something super personal, I don't. So having that balance is critical.
I'd say I definitely agree that balance is very, very important. And there were actually a couple of things, Leila, that you mentioned that I think also are worth noting. One is that you said you had lupus since you were a child. And so you grew up with this chronic illness, and how much you told people or didn't tell you prioritized your social life when, not thinking as much about health. But you've grown up with this. And so I think in some ways you've kind of had a chance to sort of learn the ropes or adjust and adapt to what makes you comfortable, perhaps for a longer period of time. Whereas, and Estela, I'm not sure if you were diagnosed when you were younger or not until later, but like for me, everything started when I was in my early 30s. And so the whole idea of, what was a social life, what was my social life, and how I interacted with people was just an entire world of difference. And I was a very social, overactive, super, I worked 1 million hours a week and volunteered 1 million hours on top of that. And, somewhere in between found time to, go out with, for happy hour after work and all those other things. And then when I was still working, but I was getting sicker, and especially during the years when I didn't really know what was wrong with me. I knew it was something, but I couldn't get my doctors to figure it out. It was a lot harder for me because I didn't even have the answer to say, oh, well, I can't do that, or I'm really tired. I have this condition and that's what is affecting me. And so I hope you'll understand, or, some other version of that idea of a statement. I didn't have that. And so people just saw me go from someone who used to do everything and go everywhere to someone who did less and canceled more. And I was just not as much fun anymore. And I think that's a part of where I lost some people, and then from being active at work and working in a very community driven environment, and then suddenly kind of losing all of that. That was all these different directions and avenues of people that I suddenly didn't have anymore. And so that was really difficult for me, because it wasn't just a matter of growing up with something. And not to say that it's easy to grow up with it, because, I know kids can be difficult. So I feel for you with that. But it is, it's a different experience when it comes from having it all or feeling like you've got it all to losing it all. And so finding that balance, I think, like you were saying, Estela, it's a little bit harder to get people to understand what that balance is that you need when you don't have as clear of an answer, or when you have a condition that people haven't heard of before or just don't understand. It's hard for them to understand more of what we're really going through. And that's where I think, sharing our stories is so important, not only for us, but, Leila, like you said, you sharing your story helps other people feel seen. And, that's what I think we as advocates really want to do as often as we can. But Estela, like you said, there does need to kind of be that boundary. We all need to be able to have a healthy boundary.